Fox News confirming that Supreme Court Justice David Souter will retire in June, leaving a seat open on our nation's highest court. Even though Souter is not the most liberal justice on the court, he does have a reliable reputation as a liberal voter on major issues, including abortion, religion, and the death penalty. We've just gotten brand new video into Fox of Souter leaving his house this morning. This becomes relevant in these times. Who else cares? On any other day, we wouldn't care. Justice Souter going to work at the Supreme Court. Today, it's relevant. His retirement clears the way for a nomination by President Obama, the president's first. And J. Allen Sekulow is chief counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice and knows just about as much about the Supreme Court as anybody I've ever met. Jay, good morning to you.
Hey, thanks, Megan.
Is this a huge shock?
It's shock that we're 102 days into the administration and the president gets his first select. There's been a lot of speculation about Justice Souter wanting to come off the court. We now know that he's going to do just that. But I also think we've got to be realistic that what you got here is the probable nominees. When you look at the names that are circulating, just look at the Department of Justice selections that President Obama's made. You're going to look at a justice that's to the left, judicial philosophy-wise, to David Souter.
You are.
Some of them will probably be in their early 50s. The court is going to shift left a bit with this new appointment, is it not? Yep. Absolutely. And I think we're go ahead.
Sorry, I got a satellite delay.
We're kidding ourselves if we don't think it's going to. It's going to shift left, yes.
All right, we've got some possible replacements for Justice Souter that we believe may be on the short list based on what President Obama has said. Let me show you the screen and we can go through a couple of them. Most people believe the front runner, if you can read this a little small, is Sonia Sotomayor of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. That's here in New York City. What do you think? Is she the inside vote? Is she the smart bet?
I think she's clearly leading the pack as far as what the president would like to do. But you're talking about a judge on the Second Circuit that is left in the judicial philosophy range, much further to the left than Justice Ginsburg or Justice Souter. This would be a beginning of the reshaping of the court. It doesn't change a vote necessarily, but it's the beginning of the reshaping of the federal judiciary here. And someone like Judge Sotomayor would be a significant shift for the court, the beginning of that shift, certainly.
She would fill two bills for him because obviously she's a woman and she's also Hispanic. She would be the first Hispanic on the court. You know, you say she's to the left of Justice Ginsburg and Justice Stevens, and having covered the court for years, I think to myself, how is that possible?
Well, I just had a case where the court was unanimous. It was involving the Ten Commandments issue, and the court was unanimous 9-0. I would not expect if Judge Sotomayor was confirmed that it probably would be 8-1. She has a very, very strict view of church-state separation. She is aggressive on this idea of a living Constitution. Now, look, I believe the Constitution can change. You got to amend it through the amendment process. Judges don't get to rewrite it. She would be, it would be an aggressive nominee, but I think clearly there's no doubt that your first name you mentioned, Sonia Sotomayor, or Judge Sotomayor, it will clearly be one of the ones on that list, if not at the very top of that list.
Now, what about Elena Kagan, another woman? Again, he's said to favor a woman for this position, so there'd be at least two women on the U.S. Supreme Court, as there were when Justice O'Connor was still on there. What do we know about Elena Kagan?
Well, I mean, she doesn't have any judicial experience. Not an appellate lawyer yet. Now, of course, the Solicitor General. But Judge Sotomayor, I would think of the two, meets, as you said, Megan, he gets 2 for 1 in that sense. You've got a woman, Hispanic, and a sitting judge. So this would be a significant nomination. The question is going to be here, will the Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, with Arlen Specter now switching parties and the possible head of the Judiciary Committee being someone like Jeff Sessions from Alabama, who's a very tough litigator, as you know, are they going to put the nominee through the paces? Because the tradition has been, while the Democrats have been very aggressive when they went after John Roberts and Sam Alito, the Republicans, by nature, have not been. That's why Justice Ginsburg was confirmed, I think, 97-3. Stephen Breyer, basically the same thing. Will the Republicans at least put through the constitutional process of advice and consent? That's going to be the question here, because this is, as I said, this is the beginning of the president reshaping the federal judiciary.
Well, but what do you hope to see, Jay? Because there was a time when, in defense of those liberal senators as well, they also rubber-stamped the confirmation process if the justice obviously had the qualifications, like Justice Scalia was confirmed unanimously, and everybody knew how far to the right he was.
Sure.
So there was a time in this country where you just looked at whether they were qualified, and you didn't really look at political ideology or ideology when it came to judging cases. That's changed now. I mean, it was so bad when Justice Alito was nominated. His wife was in tears because of the cross-examination confirmation that Ted Kennedy did of Justice Alito. I sat and watched it. And Chief Justice John Roberts didn't have it any easier. So do you think that now these Republicans in the Senate are going to say, fair game, baby. You did it to our guys, we're going to do it to your guys? Or are they going to live up to what they said during Alito and Roberts when they said this is wrong and this is not the way you're supposed to do it?
Well, I think there's a middle ground here, and you're correct. Justice Scalia, who said himself, by the way, if he was being nominated today, would not receive that unanimous confirmation. I think the Senate should take its role, as I've said before, and advice and consent. But look, the president gets to make the nomination. But I do think the real questions need to be asked so that we know the judicial philosophy. We don't want to know how a judge is going to rule on a particular case. That's not fair, that's not ethical, that's not right. But you do want to know what the judge, how they viewed their role as judge, and make sure they're not viewing that role as a legislator. And that's the thing you have to be concerned about. So I think there's a middle ground, and that middle ground says to the Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, ask real questions, probing questions, so we know at least judicial philosophy, judicial temperament, the kind of things that the Constitution anticipates is the role of the Senate. But you're right, the Democrats went after Roberts and Alito aggressively. Of course, at the end of the day, they were both confirmed and are serving the country, I think, very, very well. But I think, look, the Republicans have a chance here, not just politically, but to re-engage this issue. You know, it wasn't even barely discussed during the presidential election, yet 102 or 103 days after the president's first 3 months in office, he now gets a Supreme Court pick. So the issue has been joined, as you and I would say in practicing law. The issues are joined, and now we see, and I think this is the next thing, how far left does the court go? How far left are these nominees? But the president has the prerogative. The Republicans need to ask real questions.
And this is not likely to be the last retirement. Justice Stevens is 89. Justice Ginsburg is said to be in poor health, just recovering from pancreatic cancer. Jay Sekulow, thank you so much for your expertise on it.
Thank you, Megan.
All right.